Even if you're, like I said, a six-figure earner, most people cannot do this properly today. What is the point of that? That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Holy smokes, is that bad? I mean, where is the fun in that? And how long is that going to take? Sometimes if you don't have your financial house in order, it can really drag you down. So what does that really mean in step one to get your financial house in order? So fundamentally, this means living within your means. If you're struggling with that, it means living within a budget. Now, I hate living on a budget. That's awful. But I did it for many, many, many years. In fact, I'd even do it to now because it really, sometimes you feel like you're out of control. You got credit card debt is high, you got student loans, you got car payments, you got your mortgage, and you just feel like you're stuck. You can never get out of it. And it's basically this fundamental feeling of a lack of control. And I want to talk to you right now if you're in that spot right now. It's an awful place to be in because you feel like you're never getting out. There's nothing you can do. And I want to tell you that there is something that you can do to get out of it. And it's relatively simple, sometimes hard to do as many things are, but it's really got to be clear about what you have to face the brutal facts of how much are you making. And it doesn't really matter if your minimum wage or you're making $150,000 a year. People are always complaining about living paycheck to paycheck. So whether you're a minimum wage or you're $150,000 a year, the problem is always the same. It really is. If you're making six figures right now, you really don't feel like you're any better off than you were 10, 15, 20 years ago. And this is because in America, at least, we allow our lifestyle to expand with our increased income. And this is a major problem. And so let's get ourselves out of that. And the first thing you do that is you got to be clear about what you're currently spending. You got to monitor the last 3 months and create a spreadsheet or use some kind of software to show, hey, what are you spending every single month? What are you spending on your house, on your car, on your discretionary income? What are your utility bills? Really get clear on what you're spending. That's number one. That's step number one. Do that first. Once you have that in place, try to figure out how you can slowly reduce that. And you're not reducing it by a lot. You're reducing it by maybe 5 or 10%. But the point is this. Moving forward, you're now going to watch your expenses moving forward. That's the biggest thing. A lot of times I've found that simply once you measure something, it automatically becomes optimized because you're watching it. And the reason things get out of control is we have no idea what we're spending. We're like, my gosh, I just got paid. I don't know where all the money went. And so simply tracking your money results in a better outcome. You don't even have to do anything special except for track it. So why don't you track it and figure out what you're spending and then figure out, hey, maybe what we can do without. The point is this. You cannot invest if you are not saving some money. Now, I also find in addition to saving money, the law of reciprocity is you got to start You got to start giving. And it's a matter of generous. If you want to be if you want to receive more, you have to give more. I've experienced this in my life. It's also biblical, of course, but I've also observed it. The tighter I hold on to something, like imagine this, you have two fists and you're holding on tight to whatever you think is yours. If you're holding on tight with closed fists, you don't have the open hands to receive. And I found that by giving and being generous, your hands are open to receive more. I have found that the more generous I am, the more I am blessed to receive more. And give it a shot if you haven't experienced it before. And you know the Bible talks about tithing, and that's cool. It's a good number. But if you're not giving anything right now, then don't start with 10%. That's too big of a number. Start with something. Start with a dollar amount or a small percentage. Start with 1%, whatever the case may be. So the easiest way to do that where it doesn't see any pain is you create another open account. You automatically tack off the $50, $100 a month, whatever you're going to do, and just let it accumulate in that account. This, by the way, is the same principle on the savings account. What I want you to start thinking about is how do you pay yourself first? Paying yourself first means savings that you use for investing later on and also giving. 30% is a good number, 10% for giving, 20% for savings. How can you take 30% off the top over time? Give yourself a year if you have to. Give yourself 2 years. I don't care. Just create two accounts. One is a giving account and one is a savings account. And create an automatic draft from your normal income account as expense off the top, okay? And start moving money over that. And then look at it every quarter. And ratchet up slowly. Right? Don't go all the way 30% right from the start. That's too big. Don't do that. Start a smaller amount. So you need savings, okay? You need savings for several different reasons. One is you need to eliminate consumer debt. It is awful in our country. Consumer debt is really bad. I think the average consumer debt is like $100,000, and that includes student debt, credit card debts, car payments, excludes house payments. $100,000 on average. That's crazy. You know what? Also, what the average savings rate is when you're 65? Also $100,000. Do the math. So your net worth is zero when you're 65. Man, that's awesome, awful. So you got to stop you got to eliminate consumer debt. And the way you do it is by taking that excess, that savings, and you're putting it towards the debt. So if your credit card has a 15% interest rate, it is the best return you're ever going to get. Is a 15% return to pay down your credit card debt. Now, because you're watching what you're spending, you're also going to watch what you spend. Therefore, you're not going to add on to more consumer debt. And now you're certainly starting to eat away at it. Once you've done that, you create an emergency fund. 3 to 6 months is a great way to start, because something happens, you lose your job or something like that, the wheels don't come off, right? You have the money to dip into. And so having an emergency fund is key. So those are some of the basics. I just want to talk to some of the basics. You may want to check out Dave Ramsey's program called Peace University. It really talks about eliminating consumer debt, creating an emergency fund, creating a budget, all that stuff. Even if you're, like I said, a six-figure earner, most people cannot do this properly today. And like I said earlier, you're trying to do a syndication and create financial freedom, all that stuff. Like, okay, that's really hard to do when you have 6 figures in consumer debt, okay, and you don't have an emergency fund. Like, you got to take care of that first. So you have to start saving so that you can invest, right? Now, let me give you an example of how important saving. Let's say you save $100 per month. If you save $100 per month on anything, it's like buying a single family house. Imagine buying a single family house, okay, townhouse, something like that, and it generates $100 in free cash flow every single month. You saving $100 is like buying a freaking house that generates $100 extra. Now, what's easier to do? You shaving $100 off or buying and maintaining a house? You guessed it. Now, of course, you don't get the tax savings off saving off, but it's the easiest thing to do. It's something you can do in 30 to 60 days, and you can do that again and do $200. So, in other words, saving and cutting some of your expenses is the easiest thing to do. You should do that and really take a look at that. And it really drags you down. So, step one is really to get your financial house in order. Now, you can do these things simultaneously. You can actually start getting into syndication apartment buildings while you're doing that. I just want to make sure that you, over time, get your financial house in order, because it will accelerate the financial freedom as well. Now, step 2 is once you have savings, okay? You got your savings and you're starting to eliminate your consumer debt and you have some emergency funds, and now you have some money, okay? You have an account and you accumulate, you're like, man, I got like 10 grand in there, 20 grand. What do you do with it, okay? And that's when things get a little more interesting. Right now, with high interest rates, you may want to consider a money market account, between 4 and 5%. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. The other one that's really easy to do is ETFs. I mean, Charles Schwab and Fidelity, all these companies make it really easy to get into these low fee ETFs. ETFs are stocks and bonds, and you can pick different configurations. And again, you just have an automatic transfer going into that every single month, and they have a way to automatically invest that. Once you set it, forget it, right? It's just accumulating. It's like your 401k. If your employer matches the 401k, that's also another great place to invest. Again, you can only do that if you're taking money off the top, right? If you're spending all your money and you have to pay interest on all your debt, you're not going to have anything left over to invest. I just want to put this in perspective, even though saving is very important, and that's why I spend so much time on it. Let's say you want $80,000 when you retire, okay? The 4% rule means that once you retire, you can sell only out 4% of your principal, so you don't deplete your principal over time. So if you want to have $80,000, you need to save $2 million. Now, okay, just want to remind you, that's after tax. Okay, so you have to have $2 million saved after tax. So if you sell a bunch of stock that you held for 20 years, you're going to pay a hefty capital gains. I'm talking about, this is money you can spend. Okay, so also, this is now, right, in today's dollars. So let's say you're planning for 30 years. You're not going to need $2 million. You're going to need $5 million to have the equivalent of $80,000 per year. Now, the odds are against you because the average American has about $100,000 saved when they're 65 years old. That's sad. Okay, that's sad. 100K is not going to get you to $80,000. So the odds are stacked against you that you can save yourself there. There's popular methods like the FIRE method. FIRE method is brutal. It basically says save 50% or more and live broke. So you can retire when you're 30, and then you continue living broke so you don't draw down your principal. So basically, you're going to live broke until you're 60 years old. What is the point of that? That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Holy smokes, is that bad? I mean, where is the fun in that? And how long is that going to take? Like, I don't want retirement in 30 years while I live broke in 30 years. Now, look, you should definitely save and invest the way I just described. It just makes a lot of sense. And this is also how you get started. And it's not glamorous. It's just very systematic. The easiest way to do it is to take some amount of money into another account, and you watch it every quarter and every year, and you slowly increase it, and you let that money grow. You give it away, and then you start accumulating your savings, and then you start investing in simple things like money market and stocks.